Hello again, this is Louis Almeida, the student and teacher of the philosophy of Spinoza and the teachings of Gurdjieff. I'm going to talk about my teacher's book, How to Solve Life's Problems. And the topic today is very important, is how to come to true self-approval. We know we all are looking for to be approved of, so we're looking outside of ourselves. But my teacher is saying and emphasizing the idea that it's possible to develop inner self-approval. That way we aren't always seeking outside ourselves, but we know we have it within. And so this is the topic today, the need for direct self-approval. Everybody needs it and wants it. Why? Because we really don't have it. So we're going to find out, how can we develop self-approval? The need for self-approval is innate in everyone's mind. The adequate attainment of self-approval gives us a sense of inner rightness, of peace, of joy, and fulfillment and freedom. Look at that. So when we achieve true self-approval and we find it within ourselves, we learn how to develop it, we experience joy, peace, fulfillment, and freedom. That sounds absolutely great. And that's something I'm striving for. And I have a lot of that now that I've worked with these ideas for the past many years, more than I wish to count, but it's been a long time and a great process. So let me emphasize another paragraph or another sentence here. If we do not come to adequate self-approval directly, then we are compelled to seek it indirectly from others. And that is true. If you don't have self-approval within yourself, you have to go outside and look at, where can I find it? At work, you're worried about what people think of you. Why? Because you don't have a good, solid foundation in yourself. So we're looking at what we're trying to please people. Why? Because we believe when they please us, or we please them, they'll feel good about us. They'll tell us how great we are. All right, now, if we cannot get approval from others, we try to obtain it from our imagination. So the imagination can trick us, and we imagine that we're superior or inferior. The logic of indirect self-approval works in this way. Again, the logic of indirect self-approval works in this way. If others affirm me, like me, admire me, adore me, look up to me, or in awe by me, praise me, I might be okay. I might be all right. So look at that. Again, the logic indirect self-approval works in this way. If others affirm me, like me, admire me, adore me, look up to me, are in awe of me, praise me, I must be all right. So to feel good about ourselves, we believe others say something good about us. So I say, oh, I must be okay. No, you'll never feel okay. You'll never feel good about it, about yourself, if you depend on others to make you feel good. It's possible to come to your own sense of self, a greater sense of self, and feel good with your effort and your understanding. And therefore, you're never totally dependent on others to get approval and make you feel good about you. Because if you don't feel good about yourself and you try to find out outside yourself, you'll never be happy. You'll be under a lot of stress and anxiety about life, about your participation in life. Now, as few individuals ever come to true self-approval, there is a mad scramble by people to get approval from others. So everybody is scrambling to get approval from others. Look at the entertainment industry. That is an excellent example that to become famous is the goal. But very few, there are millions of people to participate in the entertainment field for one purpose, to get fame and, of course, money. But fame is probably the driving force. What is fame? Desire for approval. Why? Because we don't have it. A good example I've used in the past is Michael Jackson. God bless his soul. He was such a great performer, entertainer, and he was perfect in his business. But yet, he had problems, deep mental, psychological problems. He didn't feel good about himself. He never came to self-approval. His approval was based on the audience. When he's on stage, he felt, I feel so good. I get all the love I need, all the love I want. I just have to perform perfectly. And I had to change my features because I was losing my audience. And I was, maybe if I changed my feature, they would love me more. And that's why you see Michael Jackson, when he was first in his child, in his teens, in his adult life, he was a very good-looking black man, but he decided to be white. Why? Because maybe he attracted a larger audience. And who knows? But the problem was he really never achieved self-approval, and he needed drugs to sleep, and he needed drugs to perform. And that is so unfortunate. So you can see that an individual does not have self-worth, has no self-approval, feels empty. And when you feel empty, you need something to fill your emptiness with drugs or fantasy or imagination or desire to be famous or money or material things. These things try to fill the void that's within you, within us, within me. But I found how to fill myself, how to fill this void that I felt for many years. When I met my teacher and I was in this group, I've been doing this work for over 50 years. Why? Because it feeds my inner core. I feel alive. I'm going to be 83 years this year. I hope to live to be 113. That's my goal. So stay with me. And maybe you'll learn something here. Maybe you'll go to my website and you can find my website or Patreon. There are many ideas that I share that will help you come to your true self-approval. So let's continue. As few individuals ever come to true self-approval, there's a mad scramble by people to get approval from others. But how to gain direct self-approval? Now, that's what I'm talking about. How can we gain true self-approval? Remember that self-approval is earned. It must be earned. And how does one earn self-approval? It's not the job. It's not money. It's not having a great family or not having a lot of friends it's not traveling. Those are all good things, yes. And those are temporary happiness because your children grow up, they leave you. Some don't even talk to you, for God's sakes. And your money, you can lose that. Your home, it could be lost, could be burned down. So those things are good, but they're not permanent happiness and not permanent self-approval. There must be something we have developed which brings such self-approval. Something we develop. Self-approval does not involve comparison of ourselves with others. It doesn't involve comparison. It is totally self-contained. It means that we approve of our inner growth. And an intuitive affirmation. Let me read this again. It means that we approve of our inner growth, an intuitive affirmation that we are indeed on a growth path. That is key. There is such a thing as a growth path. Many of my students were involved with Gurdjieff groups, and they all said the same thing. It was highly intellectual and not emotional. Many of my students want to come and become in touch with their emotions, their feelings. Why do they feel frustration? Why anger? Why do they hate? Why do they fear? Why are they lonely? So these are things that we must look at, the emotions. I really promote the idea of journaling. I don't have my journal right now. I wanted to show you. But my other videos talk about journaling. maybe I'll have a special video about journaling. But however, I did write a book called The Way of Spinoza and Gurdjieff, and there is a chapter about journaling, how to journal, because in the journaling, you become in touch with your emotions because you are triggered every day. Your emotions of pain, hate, and anger and desire, when your desires are not met or your expectations are not met, you are going to feel pain, you are going to feel hate, and you're going to get angry. And that's important because this is human nature. You're not a robot. Sometimes we act robotically. Everything is so automatic. We don't have to think. It just comes out. But what I'm asking you to earn self-approval is begin to think, look at your nature, not judgmentally, but objectively. You want to stimulate your mind to learn to look at yourself without judgment. Look at your understand your emotions, say anger. What is the definition of anger? Here it is. Anger is desire whereby through hatred we are induced to remove or destroy the object of our hate. So anger is a way to solve a problem, but in reality it causes more problems. That's why we have so much domestic violence. The husband may have lost his job and feels depressed and frustrated. You might take out his frustration on his family because he does not know what to do. He's totally lost. Or an individual who is, say, narcissistic. Everything has to be in its place. And if it's not in its place, anger develops. So individuals, we all have a little narcissism. I have it, I know that. But we found that I've learned that to learn about your anger, it's important to have anger. You might say, well, I don't have anger. If you don't anger, if you're not angry, you don't never express anger, I would say then you're not alive. That you're not in touch with yourself. And this work, to get a self-approval, you must earn it. And to earn self-approval, you have to develop a sense of self through the journaling process. Again, my book, and it's on, if you go on my comments, I write about what I'm doing here on my podcast, go down the list, you'll see my books that I have. And you might want to get that book, The Way of Spinoza and Gurdjieff. There are many case studies. I use my students as example, how they were able to integrate Spinoza and Gurdjieff into their lives and change their character and change their ideas and develop more self-approval. Now, again, here where we are, it means that we are approved of our inner growth, an intuitive affirmation that we are indeed on a growth path. This is a growth path, the work that I'm doing. It's not stagnant. It's not intellectual. It's understanding includes intelligent work, and the emotional connection with your thoughts. Emotion with understanding includes intellectual study and emotion within an intellectual study. That is understanding. Intellectual study without emotion is abstract. It doesn't work. That's why you hear a lot of there's a lot of videos about Spinoza, a lot of good professors, teachers, and writers, but they never understood Spinoza because they never embraced the emotion part of Spinoza. Intuition with reason and emotion will help you understand Spinoza and Gurdjieff. One of the basic keys for growth is the discipline of discriminating between our conditioned memory and our innate intelligence. Throughout this book of my teacher, he talks about the intelligence. It's different from the ego-intellect. The ego-intellect relies on memory and past history. From the day you were born, you accumulate information, how to live, how to exist. And your teachers, your parents or your guardians and the school system and your peers and your neighbors and your siblings, they all were teachers of this little thing called you. And they began to develop. And you have this ego state of mind. That's your first birth. The ego state. It's important to have an ego because without an ego, you could not survive. But however, ego helps you exist and survive, yes. But we are more than ego. Ego represents a biological, mechanical, robotic being. A biological, mechanical, robotic being acts without thinking. Driving a car, even when you're talking, all your desires determine your life. So, to understand yourself, there is an awakening of a different intelligence, a higher intelligence. Gurdjieff talks about the fourth level of consciousness. And that's what I'm talking about. This higher level of consciousness or higher level of intelligent thinking is the fourth way. The fourth way is an awakened state. And that's what I'm promoting, or not promoting. I'm endeavoring to help you understand. Because it's only in the understanding is progress made. You cannot just read this and memorize it. Memory is great, but memory is not understanding. So if you read Gurdjieff and you memorize everything, or read Spinoza and you memorize, nothing's changed. There must be an emotion, and that emotion is desire and love. All right, so my teacher is saying when we are memory directed, our intelligence is excluded, and direct self-affirmation is impossible. Look at this. When we are memory directed, our intelligence is excluded, and direct self-affirmation is impossible. So you cannot get a self-affirmation from an ego state. You must get a self-approval or self-affirmation when your mind becomes activated and this intelligence, and everybody has it. Everybody has this intelligence, but very few people know it exists. I can help you find it. Just give me a call, go to my website, and email if you want to have a talk. I'll give you an introduction about how I work. Again, when we begin to listen to our intelligence, which is very difficult and yet essential. So you must understand there's a great difference between your true intelligence and your ego intellect and your memory. When we begin to listen to our intelligence, which is very difficult and yet essential, then we begin to intuit that certainty that we are on the right track. Again, intuition is so important in this work. Reason is great, and reason and intuition combined, now it's possible to grow. Reason by itself won't do it. Intuition by itself won't do it. We need both reason and intuition. Thanks for listening. I hope to hear from you. Goodbye.